You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down.
Look at the stars. The great kings of the past look down on us from those stars. So whenever you feel alone, just remember that those kings will always be there to guide you.
I don't think it is very useful to speculate on what God might or might not be able to do. Rather, we should examine what he actually does with the universe we live in.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over the horizon. The most profound discoveries are not necessarily beyond that next star. They're within us, woven into the threads that bind us.
Hello, beautiful people. Happy Wednesday, happy Mercury day, and happy full moon in Gemini. I love that we have the Gemini full moon on Mercury day. Feels very fitting because Mercury rules Gemini, and the energy is high today. The energy is intense. So we're going to talk about this full moon, all the different connections it's making, why it might feel so touchy or powerful in your life. I'd love to hear, if you're joining me live, how the full moon energy is feeling for you so far today. And then I'll take you through each rising sign and what the full moon means for you, how it's showing up in your chart and in your life. We have Rose here. Good morning. Hi, Nick. Happy full moon to you, Corby. Elena's here. She says, so glad I could make the live today. We are so glad that you are here. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Diane. Diane says, I'm feeling all the feelings today. Me too. Me too. And I'm guessing, Diane, the moon is in your 12th house right now. So that totally makes sense. Nick says it's feeling like a normal day for him. Let me trade places with you, Nick, because I would love for it to feel like a normal day today. So yes, thanks for sharing. Rose says, I've had trouble staying asleep the past few nights. The full moon can do that. Anyone else having sleep issues or just feeling heightened emotions in general? The moon represents our emotions, and when it's full, when it's bigger to our eye, our emotions seem a little bit bigger, right? Feeling pretty good, Corby says. More clear, taking note of how I communicate. Beautiful. Diane says, yes. Rachel reached out and was like, do we need to talk? I love that. I love that you two speak the same astrology language. That's always fun, having a friend who just gets it, right? Just gets it. Nick says, a little pressure, a little stress, but okay. Feeling better today than yesterday, says Nikki. Could not sleep. Wow. Just tired. My power went out last night and I couldn't sleep. Power going out. That's interesting with everything we'll be talking about today. And before we jump into the forecast, I'll show you who's celebrating a birthday today. It's an interesting lineup. Larry Bird celebrates a birthday. Let's see. Nicholas Hoult. I recognize his face. Actor. Aaron Carter. May he rest in peace. Is a Sagittarius. Terrell Owens. Sarah Bareilles. Let's see. Anyone else sticking out to you? If you are Sagittarius, if you're celebrating a birthday, someone you know is celebrating a birthday, we love to celebrate. So give them a shout out in the comments so we can send some good energy their way. Elena says, I'm very curious to see how this full moon is going to play out in my life. It's conjunct my natal Venus. Whoa. Okay. Well, just wait till we start talking about Mars, because Mars is really taking center stage, stealing the show of this full moon. The moon will be conjunct Mars as it's full. So we're going to break that down. And, oh, Diane, you're not alone. Rose is going through a 12th house transit too. Just restless. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's get into it. You know, actually, before we dive in, can we all just take a deep breath together? I just feel like we need a nice cleansing breath. Maybe I just do, but if you do too, let's just all together take a nice deep breath. Here we go. Breathing in from the bottom all the way to the top. Hold it, and then just let it out with an audible sigh. Okay. Thanks for doing that with me. If you participated, I felt like a little, yeah, let's breathe it out. Yes, 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 yes. I'm feeling a little tension. I think somebody else used the word tension. And yeah, so that's how I'm feeling with this full moon. It's definitely causing some tension in my chart. I know that. But doesn't make it any easier just to know it sometimes, right? The awareness can be helpful, but that doesn't necessarily mean we get to bypass the emotions that come along with the transits and with life in general. So the sun is in Sagittarius, the moon is in Gemini. Heather says, can't deal with any more drama. Snaps to that, Heather. Snaps to that. The sun in Sagittarius is like this over-the-top energy. It's a very abundant energy. The moon in Gemini opposing the sun. Information dynamics, conversation dynamics, sharing, taking in information, big themes that are coming up around this full moon for all of us. Rachel says, sending everyone some positivity today. We will get through this, and I support all of you. Thank you, Rachel. Thanks for that beautiful energy. Okay, so let's start by just the basic, talking about the energy this full moon in Gemini is bringing. So Gemini is the sign of the twins. Gemini energy is all about communication, taking in information, learning new things. It's a very curious energy. It's a very stimulating energy. Gemini likes variety. And we've been talking a lot about Gemini energy because Mars has been retrograde in Gemini. So that's going to be a major theme of this full moon. The full moon in Gemini being the last full moon of the year illuminates everything we've learned this year. And in this past cycle, especially since the new moon in Gemini, what has come to light? What information have you taken in? What have you learned? Will likely feel more social, more outgoing, eager to talk things out. Now, if difficult emotions are arising, there's also the need to want to talk them out. When the moon is in Gemini, not just when it's a full moon, but anytime the moon is in Gemini, we really like to process our emotions through our words. So if you're feeling big feelings, you might just feel this urge to talk about them. If you don't have a safe place to talk about how you're feeling, or maybe you're not quite ready to talk about how you're feeling, journaling is your friend too. And with everything we're talking about today, there's a practice I've mentioned before called Rage on the Page. I think Gabby Bernstein coined that term, or that's who I first learned it from. And that might be a nice practice if you're feeling agitation today, just getting out a journal and filling up a whole page with how you're feeling and not stopping until you just get it all out. That's Rage on the Page, especially if you're feeling anger or tension or anxiety. Just getting it all out can feel really helpful. And sometimes we have a tendency to do that and, verbally, and that might not feel the best for the person that you're directing it at, or might not create the easiest dynamics to work with. So, Rage on the Page using your journal. The full moon, I feel like, is especially powerful for friendships and sibling dynamics because it's in Gemini, the sign of the twins. So Gemini energy is often associated with those peer-to-peer relationships. That could be coming up a lot for you around this full moon too. Maybe friendship dynamics or something going on with your siblings. Our network can be a really great asset under this full moon. So, trusted friends, just like we saw so beautifully demonstrated between Rachel and Diane. Like Rachel reaching out and being like, hey, do we need to talk? If you have a feeling a friend is going through something, just being like, hey, I'm here for you, can be a really, really powerful offering under this full moon. Or if you're going through something, reaching out to a friend who just gets you and won't judge you and be like, hey, do you have 20 minutes? I just need to get this off my chest and have someone safe to talk to. So friendships or siblings, again, if you have a sister or a brother or a sibling who you have that kind of relationship with, that could feel really helpful too, especially if you're going through any family drama. Sometimes those sibling relationships, it's like the only other person who really gets it, that might feel helpful. We also I feel like with this Gemini energy, there's this sense of adapting and like shape shifting, like our mood changing quite a bit. Gemini is a very fickle vibe, and with our emotions heightened, it might feel like you are experiencing one emotion one moment and another emotion the next moment, and like your emotions are coming through very quickly, almost fleeting, but they still feel really big. They don't feel insignificant. They just feel like they're coming really fast, and like you're feeling a lot of them at different times, if that makes sense. It's like a lot of variety in our emotions. On that same note, the environment you're in, because Gemini is a mutable sign, might influence how you're feeling in that moment too. Geminis are known for being able to socialize with anybody, you know, being very adaptable. So our emotions could adapt very easily to whatever environment we're in. Now, this could be a powerful time to meet new people, make new connections under the full moon in Gemini, especially if you are a Sagittarius rising or if you are a Leo rising. This would be a really powerful full moon to meet someone new. So if you're looking for connection, that's a really positive potential of this full moon. We're really craving stimulation right now, stimulating environments, stimulating conversations. We want that intellectual stimulation with the full moon in Gemini. And if you're not feeling social, maybe even cracking open a new book or learning something new would be favored under the full moon in Gemini. We just really are in this state of being curious and wanting to observe new things, learn new things, and process. There is this need to understand. A need to understand with this full moon in Gemini that's really illuminated, you know, really wanting to find that missing puzzle piece or make sense of things. Not quite as analytical as Virgo energy, not quite as detail oriented or critical, but just like really craving new information and new stimulation. Katie says it perfectly. So scattered today. Our emotions could feel very scattered. You know, like I said, 1 minute you're feeling really good and really optimistic. It's Sagittarius season. And the next minute you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so irritated. Like I'm having a hard time seeing the positive, seeing the potential, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. That's definitely been my experience. So if you're feeling that too, you are certainly not alone. Yes, rage on the page is better than raging out on people. Yes, yes, yes. And that brings me to another point. There's going to be a lot of energy with this full moon, whether we like it or not. So having a healthy outlet for that energy is going to be really important. Rage on the page, journaling, great outlet. Exercising, moving your body, a great outlet. Doing something creative. But there's going to be this urge to do something with your emotions, with your energy. And if you don't have a pre-planned, like this is where I'm going to direct that energy, it could spill out onto other people. Remember, Gemini energy, like it's highlighting our friendships, our peer-to-peer relationships. So you wouldn't want someone who you consider a friend to be caught in the crossfire of your heightened emotions, right? Have the outlet. If you don't have it, be thinking through this live stream, like, what is my go-to outlet if I'm feeling the energy bubbling up and I just need to get it out? Rachel says, lots of review happening today. Feeling kind of scrambled with my processing though. Ugh, you and me both. Everything everybody's saying, I'm like, yes, I feel this. Getting lost in my thoughts, but in an optimistic way. Well, that's great. At least you're able to stay optimistic. Wow, talked with her brother yesterday. Katie says it's perfect timing. There you go. Right when the moon moved into Gemini, probably. That is so cool. Rachel says, I love the Gemini moon because it helps me with that processing and just word vomit. My go-to now trying to stay open for others during the Gemini moon if I want to help others. And that's a really beautiful point too, Rachel. You know, like I said, there is really this tendency to want to verbally process and share our emotions, but it's just as important to hold space for other people and to listen for feedback, because there could be big realizations that happen around this full moon. As we get more into the forecast, you'll see why. And so holding that space for other people to reflect back to you what they're seeing could bring new information into your awareness that kind of puts those pieces together or makes things click. It's not necessarily about you needing to help others. It's just if you're going to someone and you are expressing how you're feeling, make sure you're holding space for them to maybe you don't want advice, and that's okay to set that boundary. Like, I'm not looking for feedback, but just to share, you know, back to you if you're looking for information, what they're witnessing, what they're noticing. You and me too, Heather. I feel like I'm bracing for impact. It's going to be a powerful full moon. It's going to be a powerful full moon. Ah, Nick bought the only astrology book you'll ever need. I love that. It's right behind me, right there. I've been journaling a lot the past 2 weeks, really curious about my internal world and dialogue. I love that, Elena. And something really cool that you could do under this full moon is look back on what you've been journaling since the new moon and see what has come to light. You know, that's a really cool practice if you've been journaling to review the past 2 weeks. Because remember, a full moon is the culmination point of not just this cycle, the past 2 weeks, but a 6-month cycle since the new moon in Gemini. And with this being the last full moon of the year, really a culmination point of the entire year of any emotions that have been bubbling up for the entire year might come to a head under this full moon tonight. So let's continue talking about Mars and why this is feeling touchy. It's a touchy full moon. So the moon is full exactly at 8:07 p.m. Pacific time, 11 p.m. Eastern time. The sun opposes Mars at 9:41 p.m. Pacific time, which would be right around midnight, 12:30 Eastern time. When the sun opposes Mars, Mars is also conjunct the moon. Okay, so instead of me trying to paint this picture, let me just show you what it looks like on the chart. Here we go. This is the dynamic of this full moon right here. You can see that giant opposition down the middle of the chart. The moon conjunct Mars at its peak fullness and opposing the sun. Because, of course, the sun and moon oppose each other during a full moon, marking that really big illumination. So Mars is the main character of this full moon. It's not even the moon. It's not the sun. It's Mars. And this also marks the halfway point of Mars retrograde. So we have been doing a lot of review, like Rachel was saying. All of us have really been reviewing our motivations, reviewing what do I really want out of life? What am I doing right now since Mars stationed retrograde right before Halloween? And we've been feeling the effects of Mars retrograde for a couple months now. Mars will station direct on January 12th. So we still have about a month of Mars retrograde. And yeah, this is really illuminating the emotions surrounding all of that review that we've been doing. So the sun opposing Mars, if it wasn't a full moon, if it was just the sun opposing Mars, this can really energize us or illuminate our motivations. But with it being the full moon too, that's why there's like this emotional element involved. And also, I want to point out, this is the brightest Mars has looked since the sun is opposing Mars to us here on Earth since 2020. So not only are we talking about the whole year, not only are we talking about this 6-month cycle, but we're kind of talking about a 2-year cycle here when we're talking about Mars. So really a powerful emphasis today on what's been going on with Mars retrograde and with Mars in general. There's been a lot of change, a lot of motivations shifting since the pandemic started. A lot of people have been doing things differently, or, you know, so many people have gone through so many wild life changes and huge shifts since the pandemic. Things were revealed to people that probably wouldn't have been revealed if we weren't all in a global pandemic, right? So this is a big point for Mars, and there are no coincidences that it's happening on the full moon. So as the sun opposes Mars, as it's shining its brightest light on Mars, it's really illuminating those questions. What do I want? Where am I going? What am I doing? What is my desire? What's the direction I'm going in? If you've been experiencing conflict or agitation recently, I know a lot of people have. This could feel like a culmination point of that, really like shining light on the conflict, on the anger, on the aggression. It's almost like Mars is extra red, extra hot. That's not actually the case, but the sun shining on it is going to make it appear even brighter than it normally would as you look up in the sky. So I think the question we can ask ourselves to work with this is, what's this anger showing me? What's this aggression showing me? What's this irritation showing me? Power struggles are certainly possible. Again, you might have already been experiencing these things as the sun was coming into this opposition to Mars, as Mars retrograde is reaching its peak retrogradeness right now. Power struggles are especially possible if we're unwilling to be direct or honest about how we're feeling. Mars energy likes things to be direct. It likes to just get straight to the point. So if we're not being direct, if we're not being honest, that's where these irritations or aggressions could pop up. Even if we are being direct or honest, irritation and aggression could pop up. So that kind of feels par for the course. I don't know if there's really any way to avoid it. I would say instead work with it. You know, what is this showing me about my deeper desires, about what I really want? If I'm getting angry about something, is this showing me what I don't want? Or is this showing me something I really do want? And maybe that's the point where you crack open the journal and start raging on the page, you know? So what are these emotions showing me about my deeper desires? That's what Mars is asking us. Corby says, I feel like it's been a review of the past 2 years for me, finally able to close that chapter and move forward. That's awesome. I'm so happy for you. Diane says, I'd love to be able to close this chapter and move forward to stable future. Was just saying this earlier today, actually. Beautiful. A lot of synchronicity between a lot of your comments. I had the same conflict with someone this same time last year. It's interesting to reflect on how different and the same I feel this year. Yeah, and isn't it interesting when we get into these cycles of noticing, oh, in this season last year, this is what came up for me, and now this is coming up for me again this year. And then I'm sure there are synchronicities when you look at your chart, like, oh yeah, the sun was here last year, the moon was here last year, and that's what's coming up again. So it's all cyclical, but it's also really beautiful when you do notice that things are repeating or that you're running into the same conflicts or issues, how you're handling it differently, like you said, in the growth. And what better way to use a full moon than to appreciate our growth, to understand our growth, to see what we've learned over the past cycle, especially in a full moon in Gemini. Ugh, my words today. Yeah, it feels like closing 2020 off from pandemic lockdown. I've been starting to feel too like things are just kind of dying down with all of that. Like I went out the other day and I noticed a few people wearing masks, and I was like, wow, they're the outliers now. You know, most people are just living normal lives again for the most part. That's not to be political in any way. That's just my observation. Yeah, well, this is your Mars return, Rachel. She says, well, Mars has been in Gemini. I've been really trying to embrace my Mars in Gemini and love all aspects of it. The good, the bad, finding that compassion for myself. Beautiful. So the sun opposes Mars and the moon is conjunct Mars. But first, earlier in the day, actually what we're starting to feel right now is the moon forming a sextile to Chiron. So that's really the only other connection the full moon makes today at all, is a sextile to Chiron before it meets up with Mars. And to me, this could be helpful, helping us lean into healing, lean into understanding, but also it could be triggering, right? Chiron is like that double-edged sword. Sometimes we have to be triggered in order to understand how to heal. So triggers could be coming up from this sextile to Chiron, but it could also be a window or an opportunity to lean into healing. And if you are feeling triggered or provoked, again, asking what wants to be released coming off of this full moon? What do I want to let go of? What is this showing me about my deeper desires? But that conjunction to Mars marks this really powerful phenomenon. And it's not just a conjunction to Mars. This is what's called an occultation, like the word occult, okay? And I'm going to try to show you. Hopefully it works. I have a little video pulled up from Griffith Observatory. So an occultation is essentially there are conjunctions that happen all the time with the moon, right? Like we talk about this almost on a daily basis, conjunctions with the moon. But an occultation, occult, the meaning behind occult is hidden. And so when we have an occultation in astrology, it's one planet passing directly behind another planet or in front of another planet. It could go both ways, right? And from our line of sight here on Earth, like a conjunction could happen from here on Earth and like Mars could be here and the moon could be here, right? Does that make sense? But an occultation is when they're actually in the same line of sight as each other. And so one passes over the other. It's like an eclipse, but with Mars. So here's what that's going to look like tonight. Let me show you. Hopefully this plays. This is just on YouTube. And something we'll all be able to observe right around the time of the full moon in the hour, I think, following the full moon. So here we go. You can see Mars, hopefully you can see this, passing behind the moon and then coming back out the other side. That is what the occultation will look like. Hopefully I'm saying occultation right. I'm just learning about this concept myself. We're all learning here together, right? So it's really emphasizing the conjunction in a lot of ways. Let me know if you were able to see that. It's really emphasizing the conjunction in a lot of ways. And what's especially potent about this transit, about this occultation, this very powerful conjunction, is that Mars will be hidden for about an hour. We won't be able to see Mars. Similar energy to an eclipse where it's revealing hidden information. It's revealing shadows because we have this element of hiding. So during this hour, right around the peak of the full moon, it could be a purge of emotions that come through. It could be emotions that have been hidden, anger that's been hidden, aggression that's been hidden that comes out. Or it could show us what we've been hiding, what we've been repressing. So either way, today's energy, the full moon energy, does feel touchy. It does feel aggressive because Mars is playing such a big role. Knowing that's happening might help you observe it before it reaches peak anger or full-blown emotion, right? There might also be an intense urge to take action of some sort, Mars being the planet of action. So especially right around the time of the full moon, it could feel like I just need to do something about this. Like I'm feeling this way and I just need to do something about it. Now that can easily manifest as aggression or anger, right? A lot of times anger comes out when it's just like we're feeling this big thing and we don't know what to do with it. And I don't know if it's societal. I don't know if it's primal. I think it's a variety of things, but sometimes it's emotion needing to be expressed. And oftentimes people don't know how to express big emotions without getting angry, without erupting. So that is certainly possible. It just feels like this purging energy of things that have been hidden or that we haven't been paying attention to. It's also interesting with the moon directly aligned with Mars. It feels energetically like the moon is pulling through Mars's energy. So amplifying that need to take action, amplifying that aggression, amplifying that anger, amplifying that fiery, red hot energy that Mars brings, but also amplifying this masculine direct leadership energy. So that is a way that maybe we could use this without letting it use us, just being like, okay, how can I be more direct? How can I be a leader in this situation? How can I take action in a way that's going to be beneficial? But taking action for the sake of taking action, reacting for the sake of reacting, letting your emotions get the best of you could lead you to a pretty fiery place during this full moon. I wish this was more happy. Don't we all? But if you see, we're all our own best astrologers, right? I am not this all-knowing being. So if you see any potential of how you think we could work with this, please share it in the comments, because full disclosure, your girl is feeling that restless, irritated energy around this full moon. And I try to be in a really good state every time I come on here with you guys, but it feels like today that's just not an option. So knowing what's going on in your chart, right around 16 degrees of Gemini or 16 degrees of Sagittarius, 15, 16 degrees of Virgo and Pisces are also going to be very activated. So those midpoints of mutable signs, if you have placements there, if you have strong placements there, that irritation is probably feeling a lot stronger for you than maybe it is for other people. Elena asks, what time is the full moon again? It's exact right after 8 p.m. Pacific time, so right after 11 p.m. Eastern time. So tonight's the night to work with it. Tonight is the night. You can always work with the moon 3 days before, 3 days after, especially a full moon. But if you are wanting to do some releasing of any kind, this full moon would be a powerful full moon to release things. It feels very cathartic. Releasing through words, whether it's saying something out loud. And remember, you can also say things out loud, like doing spell work, releasing things with your voice without having to direct them at other people. You know, I feel like this full moon, I just got this visual of like screaming into a pillow. That's the kind of energy that feels like might come through at the time of the full moon. And screaming is really cathartic, really powerful. There are a lot of spiritual practices where you're invited to just scream and activate your throat chakra and let it out. And, you know, Gemini energy wants us to use our lungs, use our voice, use our throat. That can really help clear your nervous system or reset your nervous system using your voice. Your voice is the ultimate instrument. It sends vibrations through your body, right? And the emotion behind your voice can clear out different stagnant energy, sending different frequencies throughout your body. So playing with your voice is a great way to work with the full moon. Yes, you should be able to see Mars going behind the moon if you live in the US. I think everywhere in the Northern Hemisphere, for the most part, will be able to see Mars going behind the moon. So I love when we have transits like this that we can see with our own eyes. And that's another beautiful way to work with this moon, is to literally go watch Mars disappear behind the moon and see how that feels for you. See what comes up for you in that moment. See if there's anything aha that comes up, or any emotions that are released, or any awareness around what's been hiding for you. Katie says, I didn't think to look at my chart last year. Definitely going to have to look. Going to try to use this energy to be clear and direct in how I deal with it. Beautiful. Stepping into that leadership energy. Mercury in Capricorn makes it hard to be soft. That should be on a plaque or something. Mercury in Capricorn, or just Capricorn placements in general. Hard to be soft. That's funny. Tanner says, hey everyone, happy full moon. It's really interesting to me following the synodic cycle between Sun and Mars, Sun and Venus trine Mars around October 30th before Mars retrograde. I feel like this is a highly Venusian double full moon due to the Sun-Mars opposition and Venus's narrative squaring Jupiter now, which is housing the Sun and Venus. Yeah, Venus has been playing a big role in everything that's been happening with Mars and just in general lately. I mean, look at the chart right now. You can see that, yes, Mercury is in Capricorn, but Venus is right behind. Venus moves into Capricorn on Friday. So our mental awareness, like, we're just much more aware of what's going on with Venus. Venus and Mercury have been transiting together for the past month or so, and they're still pretty close to one another. So we've just been more conscious, more aware of what's going on with Venus. And yeah, Venus squaring Jupiter, that square is going to become exact, I believe, tomorrow or the next couple days. So definitely feeling an amplified energy of Venus too. And remember, Venus opposed Mars earlier in the week or last week, whenever that was. What is time anyway? So Venus has been playing a big role in this. Thank you for bringing that up, Tanner, and bringing that to our attention. And if Venus is your ruling planet, you might be feeling this energy more strongly because Mars is the opposite energy of your energy. If Mars is your ruling planet, you're definitely going to be feeling this moon. And then because the full moon is in Gemini, its ruler is Mercury, and Mercury is still loosely conjunct Venus. So yes, Venus very much still in the mix. Okay, and I'm glad you could all see the video. It's been raining, so you might not be able to see it. Well, I will say there are lots of live streams. Different observatories will be streaming the occultation of Mars because planets moving directly behind the moon it's fairly rare that happens. So a lot of astronomers are very excited to watch this happen tonight. And when we have an occultation of the sun, we call that a cazimi usually, and you can't see it because the sun is so bright that you can't see planets moving past it. Sometimes eclipses you can see, obviously the moon moving over the sun, but smaller planets not so much, unless you have a very specific kind of telescope or something to look at it through. There are also very rare occurrences that happen, decades apart usually, where two planets have an occultation and one planet moves directly across the line of another planet. Planetary conjunctions happen all the time, like I said, but specifically when they're at the same delineation from us here on Earth and they're moving across each other in the night sky, that's a really special occurrence. Rachel says, been having a mix of energy today, crying this morning, dancing around, releasing tension, all the emotions, a variety of emotions to be expected, Oh, thanks, Rachel. She says, I love your vulnerability all the time, sending you so much love. It doesn't have to be perfect. Thank you for that reminder. Literally yelled the F word in the car a few times today just to get the energy out. I wasn't even that mad, just frustrated. Hey, that is powerful. Scream into a pillow, scream in your car, blast some Alanis Morissette in your car. That's my go-to when I'm angry. I just crank up Alanis Morissette and I scream it at the top of my lungs. I just can feel her anger in her music. And, some people listen to like Screamo and hard rock. For me, it's Alanis. But that can be a really powerful way to work with this too if you're feeling that anger. Maybe you're not, maybe you're blessed and they're just like, this full moon is so beautiful. Yay. I'm happy for you if that's the case. But I think a lot of us are feeling really agitated. Yeah, Jupiter's been out at night as well. Yes, Jupiter's been visible in the night sky. And the closest to Earth it's been in a long time too, for the past couple months actually. So you can see Jupiter with the bare eye right now. Do the scream in the car bit. Say all the things I would want to say to people and try to vent it alone. Yes. Get it out. It wants to come out. It needs to get out of your system. That's a very healthy outlet. Remember how I said, think through this live stream about what's a good healthy outlet if I'm feeling agitated today. Get in your car, scream it out, even if you're just driving around the block, so you don't take it out on the people you love and the people around you. So that's what's going on with this full moon. That's what's going on. Now let's talk about what the full moon means for each of the signs. So this is the point where I always tell you to pay attention to your rising sign. Listen for your rising sign. If you don't know your rising sign, that's okay. Listen for your sun sign. If it resonates, take it. If it doesn't, leave it. But if you're curious, that curiosity is ignited under a full moon in Gemini, and you don't know your rising sign yet, head to thespiritualjournalist.com/birth chart, or you can just scan the QR code, click the link in the description down below, and calculate your birth chart. You do need to know your birth time, but once you have that chart all ready to go, look for ASC. ASC represents ascendant. That's the rising sign. That's what we're talking about. And that's what sets up your whole chart and tells us where the moon is moving through your chart specifically. So we're going to go through each of the signs house by house. Listen for your rising sign. And if you are more advanced and you specifically know where 16 degrees of Gemini falls in your chart, listen for that house and take that into account as well. It might be the sign after you is actually what house this full moon is going to fall in. If this is confusing to you, sign up for transit tracking. It's going to be a month-long journaling container that we're doing together where I'm going to teach you how to track the transits through your own chart. And you can sign up for that at thespiritualjournalist.com/shop. So without further ado, let's get into it. We will start with our Geminis. And then we'll move backwards through the signs, forward through the houses. So Gemini risings. This full moon is moving from your 12th house to your first house, really emphasizing your first house, this sense of becoming. Who have you become this year? your sense of self. You are in the spotlight under this full moon if you're a Gemini rising. So reflect on how much you've grown as a person this year. Reflect on all that you've learned about yourself this year. This is really illuminating your sense of self, who you are becoming. And don't be afraid to shine your light, you know. Maybe it reveals deeper motivations as well, with Mars probably in your first house, maybe in your 12th house, but with the full moon conjunct Mars, there could be a lot of purpose work that you're doing and deeper motivation work you're doing. Like, what do I really want out of life? What do I personally want to do with my life? Those are questions that could be coming up for you because Mars is playing such a heavy role in your life right now. So really just reflecting on, who am I becoming? What do I want? What am I here to do if you're a Gemini rising? And I know we have a few Gemini risings in the comments. I use Placidus personally, but if you use whole sign astrology, that makes it even easier. You don't necessarily have to look at what degree the moon is at in your chart. You can just listen for your rising sign. I am a Virgo and very detail oriented, so I like to know exactly like where the moon is in my chart, what aspects it's making, and you know, I like to know based on the exact degree, based on Placidus astrology. But I always say, again, you are your own best astrologer. If one kind of astrology resonates for you, or you feel like you're drawn to that, that's for you. Use it. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Okay, moving on to our Taurus risings. Taurus risings, money might be coming up for you. Physical comfort might be coming up for you because this full moon lands in your second house of values and physical goods or physical income. Your values might have shifted a lot this year. So this is a really powerful full moon to reflect on your values. Also, to reflect on your physical space. Clearing clutter from your life can be a really powerful way to do something and work with this full moon. And that goes hand in hand with values, right? Like if you're clearing out your space, picking something up and being like, do I value this anymore? This is a hair tie, by the way. Do I value this anymore? Okay, bye. You know, it's like the Marie Kondo method. Like, does this bring me joy? Is this bringing value to my life? Anything that's not bringing value to your life, gotta go. It's gotta go under this full moon. We don't want to carry it into the new year, you know? So if you're a Taurus rising, releasing clutter and really getting clear on what's important to you, what do you value, releasing anything that no longer aligns with your values. Now, irritations or triggers could pop up like with everybody else for the full moon, and paying attention to, if you're getting angry, is that showing you something about your values? You know, if someone is frustrating you, it's showing you, okay, I value a certain kind of behavior in other people, a certain kind of treatment from other people. And that's just helping you get clear on your values, even if it doesn't feel helpful in the moment. So viewing everything through the lens of values. Aries risings. This full moon is very potent for you as well because Mars is your ruling planet if you're an Aries rising, and Mars is conjunct the full moon. So it's going to feel like a powerful one for you for sure. And this season in general, Mars retrograde, if you're an Aries rising, this might make you feel a little out of sorts, or like you're just reviewing a lot of your energy and what you're doing and who you are and all the things. Aries risings, this Mars retrograde is kind of a doozy for you. Now, the full moon is in your third house or moving into your third house. So if you're an Aries rising, the knowledge that you have learned this year is being illuminated. What have you learned? What conversations are you having that are bringing through insights? Use what you've learned, use what you know to release any information that's not serving you. You know, conversations could be very potent for you if you're an Aries rising right now, using your voice, reclaiming your voice. That doesn't necessarily mean reclaiming your voice to yell at people, because you might feel like doing that if you're an Aries rising. Mars being conjunct the moon, it just makes amplified aggression, especially for you. But what are you learning from the conversations you're having? It might even be that you're learning how to communicate. It might even be that you're learning about how to communicate more effectively if you're an Aries rising. So communication is the big theme for you, and you're going to be okay. If you're an Aries rising, it's going to be okay. Things will get a lot easier once Mars stations direct in January. Things might just be feeling very chaotic, or like you are moving backwards right now. And that's to be expected, to be expected. Yes, Placidus is definitely more specific, Elena. Okay, Pisces risings. This full moon is going into your 4th house. So conversations with family, issues with family could be popping up right now, and talking them out or working them out using your mind, releasing emotions through words, writing, speaking could feel very cathartic. But likely what's coming up for you around this full moon has to do with family patterns or family members. Unconscious generational patterns could be revealed if you're a Pisces rising. Remember, with Mars hiding behind the moon, it's kind of revealing these deeper issues. It's revealing what's been hidden. It's showing us what's hiding. So any sort of patterning, especially aggression that's passed down from generation to generation, I think a lot of us can relate to that, right? That could become illuminated for you under this full moon. Also, for you Pisces risings, clearing out your physical home. Creating an energetic shift in your physical home could be very powerful, a really nice way to work with this energy. So for you Pisces risings, it's about your physical home, but also your family, your relational home, if you will. And anything, it could even be like hidden clutter that's revealed to you around your house if you're a Pisces rising that needs to be cleared out so you can begin that release process that comes after the full moon. Okay, Aquarius risings. This full moon is moving into your 5th house. Air signs, it might feel a little easier for air signs than other people. Maybe, who's to say? But Aquarius risings, in your 5th house, this full moon brings this childlike enthusiasm. You might even feel like with Mars retrograde conjunct the full moon that you're kind of falling back into a childlike version of yourself. Now that could go a couple different ways, right? We want to make sure we're not like tantruming, because that's possible if you're an Aquarius rising. If you kind of fall back into a childlike, toddler-like version of yourself, that emotional expression, especially with Mars here, could be over the top. If you were a child who had a lot of irritation or anger or tantrumed a lot, there's no shame there. So many of us did, right? As we learn how to process our emotions. Anything that you haven't learned yet, any skills that you didn't quite learn as a child could be coming back around for you to figure out. So for you, it feels also kind of like how to communicate, but giving your inner child what it needs. Illuminating any, even anger that your inner child is still holding on to. So the antidote for this, Aquarius risings, is to lean into play, to lean into fun, to lean into creativity, to let it be expressed in a healthy way. Maybe revisiting a hobby or an interest from your childhood that lights you up can help you almost remap the neurons in your mind. Like, okay, when I feel this way, I don't have to act like my inner child. I can have this healthy outlet for release instead. So playing around with different modalities of release, screaming into the pillows, singing at the top of your lungs, singing helps regulate your nervous system. So how can you find other ways of releasing aggression, releasing discomfort, releasing anger that are healthy, and also support your inner child in a way that maybe your inner child wasn't supported when you were when you were little? Karaoke party. Yes, Aquarius risings, a karaoke party would be a great way to release. Sing some angry music under the full moon in Gemini. Yeah. Capricorn risings. This full moon is moving into your 6th house. So this is all about health, wellness, routines. You could have some realizations about your health, about your wellness. This is a great time with Mars retrograde also, probably in your 6th house, to review your routine, to review the small things you do every day and how they make up the big picture? Are you self-sabotaging in any way? Mars retrograde could be revealing ways that you are self-sabotaging with your daily routine and your daily habits. So this full moon for you is a really powerful opportunity to release any habits that are damaging your well-being. Now, habits could look like going to bed without washing your face and brushing your teeth. Habits could look like, you know, eating a cookie right before bed every night, or waking up and I don't know, you get the idea about habits. But habits could also look like how you react to things. And with this being a very reactive full moon, noticing, what do I habitually do when I'm triggered? What do I habitually do when I'm irritated? What do I habitually do when I have a big emotion and I don't know how to process it? So for you, the focus is on habits, Capricorn rising, and habits cover a wide variety of things. But what habits are you ready to let go of? What habits are you ready to release? Sagittarius risings. This full moon is bringing up a lot in your closest relationships. How are your partnerships serving you? And how are you serving your partnerships if you're a Sagittarius rising? This isn't just romantic. It could be parent-child relationships. It could be partnerships in business. But your ability to communicate in partnerships is certainly highlighted under the full moon in Gemini. And you might be feeling irritated by those relationships with Mars in your 7th house too. It might be like someone you're close to in this one-on-one relationship with is driving you nuts or making you angry, or you're just finding yourself being irritated by them, maybe for no reason. So how are your partnerships serving you, and how are you serving them? Even doing a gratitude practice could actually be really helpful if you're a Sagittarius rising. Gratitude probably comes to you fairly easily. But it might just be an opportunity to be like, okay, I'm only seeing the irritating things in my relationship. How can I reframe this a little bit or see the whole picture, right? What's been hidden? And maybe what's been hidden for you is this deeper desire, this deeper motivation to connect that you're not quite feeling right now. And that's what the deeper irritation is signaling. Like, I'm not feeling like we're connecting quite enough. I'm not feeling like this relationship is giving me enough connection, but how am I playing a role in that? Am I being willing to connect? Am I being open? So really assessing how you're playing into those relationships, and if you're feeling irritated, what those irritations are showing you, what deeper truths they're revealing, what deeper desires they're revealing in your relationships. Scorpio risings. This full moon is in your 8th house, which is ruled by Scorpio, so very familiar energy to you. Scorpio risings, hidden information could come up during this full moon. The 8th house is all about mystery, what lies beneath, energetic contracts we have with people. Your inner detective could serve you, because you're probably a natural detective if you're a Scorpio rising. You could uncover some deeper information, but here's the caveat. Instead of sleuthing around and looking for hidden information among other people, questioning, are they hiding something? Are they keeping something from me? Use that inner detective to go deep within, trying to solve the mysteries about yourself, trying to find out about your deeper desires, your deeper motivations. And also, if you're a Scorpio rising, this would be a very, 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 very potent full moon for you to do a cord cutting, some sort of release. For you, this full moon is really signaling release. So rather than continuing to try to like dig deeper with other people, digging deeper with yourself and being like, okay, what do I really need to let go of? What energetic attachment is still within me that maybe has been hidden? Maybe I haven't been conscious of. Because remember, Mars going behind the moon in this occultation is showing us things that have been hidden, or revealing things that have been hidden. So what hidden energetic attachments do you need to cut off under this full moon? That's how to use your natural ability to be a detective to your benefit. There is the tendency to try to control, manipulate, find out information that you can be angry about, right? If you're a Scorpio rising. Don't do that. Just try not to do that, and instead focus inward. Libra risings. This full moon is in your 9th house. Like I said, air signs, have a little bit more of a lighter energy to work with under this full moon for the most part. If you're a Libra rising, this is a really powerful full moon for gratitude for you as well, reflecting on all the ways you've grown, all the ways you've expanded. Mars has been moving retrograde through your 9th house. Now with the full moon meeting up with Mars in your 9th house, you might have been doing a lot of review about your direction, your growth, your expansion, what you want out of life. And as you've been doing this review, sometimes sharing what you've learned with others, sharing the realizations you're having with others can help you gain a better understanding of how much you've really grown. Get that higher perspective, that greater understanding of the big picture. This is more about the big picture for you if you're a Libra rising than it is about the small details or the minor irritations that are popping up. So gratitude and sharing with other people, sharing healing modalities that you've learned this year, information that you've learned this year, or reflecting on trips you've taken this year, but just really leaning into gratitude for all the ways you've grown and all the things you've learned. And then if you're feeling up to it, sharing the things you've learned with someone else who's open to receiving them can really help you understand what you really want moving forward, and maybe what you don't want, maybe what you need to release. Because remember, as with all full moons, there is an element of release that comes up. Last three are Virgo risings. This full moon is happening or moving into your 10th house. So the full moon in Gemini is really putting the emphasis on long-term goals. Now with Mars retrograde moving back through your 10th house, even into your 9th house, you might feel like long-term success, long-term goals have kind of been moving backwards. Like you're asking yourself, what do I really want out of life? What does success actually look like? What does it actually mean to me? Those questions could definitely be coming up for you around this full moon. I think the way to use the review for you is to review the deeper motivations behind your long-term goals. Yes, I want to own my own business, but why do I want to own my own business? You know, really coming back to your why for the things that you're climbing towards and working towards, and even reviewing what success means to you. At the same time, though, Virgo risings, I'm one of you, we can be very critical and like it's always striving for perfection, and there's always more to be done. It's never perfect. It's never good enough. So with reviewing what you really want and maybe assessing your long-term goals, also giving yourself credit for how much you've already learned, how much you've already accomplished this year, and how much success you already achieved. Because success isn't a destination, right? We can constantly be observing different ways we're succeeding and different opportunities for growth. So giving yourself credit for the success you've already achieved this year, even if it doesn't quite feel like you're there or you are where you want to be along your journey just yet. Give yourself credit and maybe ask yourself, what do I really want? What's the deeper motivation here? Why do I want the long-term goals I want? Why am I working towards these things? Leo risings. This is a powerful full moon to connect with your community. The full moon will be moving into your 11th house of your network, of your community. So if you're a Leo rising, you probably have no problem taking the lead, which means start a group chat, reach out to friends, be the person to reach out and maybe check in on other people, or just say, hey. Seeing yourself reflected through the conversations that you're having with other people can help you better understand your own feelings under this full moon. And we're all feeling a lot of feelings, it sounds like, under the full moon. So connect with your community. Your community is your asset. Your community is your power. And even just like observing or reviewing, how am I showing up on social media? How am I showing up in my community? That could be the deeper motivation or the hidden truth that is waiting for you to uncover during this full moon. How are you showing up in your community? Are you being the person you want to be in your network, in your community? Or is there a deeper desire that lives within you that wants to be seen by your group, by your collective? So community is very powerful for you. And even Like I said, simply starting a group text could spark something in you like, oh, that felt really good. Like I meant to kind of be a leader in my community and to start the conversations and to bring people together, you know? So yeah, lean into your community this full moon. And last but certainly not least, Cancer risings. How you doing? How you doing, my Cancer risings? This full moon is going to feel like a big release for you. It's a 12th house transit. Even Gemini risings, you're probably feeling this too today. What thoughts, beliefs are you ready to let go of under this Gemini full moon, ruling our mindset, ruling our thought process? There's a lot of mental chatter that might need to be let go of for you if you're a Cancer rising. Using your words, like raging on the page, journaling it out, talking it out, can be especially cathartic for you if you're a Cancer rising. Using the power of that Gemini energy, the Gemini full moon, to release. You might be feeling extra tired if you're a Cancer rising too, like you just kind of need to be in your cocoon. But pay attention, even if physically you're feeling tired and you kind of just want to go within, you might be having a lot of mental chatter. What's coming up in your mind's eye? What's coming up in that mental chatter? What needs to be released? Are there any like repeating statements or repeating thoughts that keep coming through? Why do they keep coming up? Those thoughts could be signaling a deeper desire of something that wants to be released, something that wants to be let go of, or just something that wants to be acknowledged. So not just paying attention to like physical rest, but your mental health is huge during this full moon. If you're a Cancer rising, give yourself a break, give yourself grace, and, you know, ask if there's anything that needs to be released that would benefit your mental health, that would help you heal. This can be a very healing full moon if you let it be, Cancer rising. So what do you need to let go of in order to fully heal and step into the next version of yourself? Those are all the signs. Rachel says, really loving this 9th house energy. I'm going to do a sound bath today. I love that. I love the idea of just being thankful for how far I've come and proud of myself. A sound bath is a beautiful thing to do under a 9th house transit too. It can be very expansive, right? Letting go of all that self-shame I hold on to tightly. And you have grown so much this year, Rachel. We've all witnessed how much you've grown this year. So we are all giving you credit for just how expansive this year has been for you. I hope that resonated for your rising sign. I hope that gave you a little nugget of wisdom or just something to think about under this full moon, maybe a tool that you can use to help with your release. And as we begin to close out our time together, I want to come back to today's affirmation, which is, I see what has been hidden, inspired by the occultation between the moon and Mars hiding behind the moon for about an hour as it's full tonight, showing us what's been hidden. You know, maybe that missing piece during Mars retrograde, this review we've been doing, what have we not been seeing? That missing piece could become clear as Mars hides, you know, and our emotions behind those motivations that we've been reviewing are illuminated and amplified. The moon kind of takes over for Mars for just a moment, just an hour. So I see what's been hidden. I'm open to emotions that I've been burying down. I'm open to things that have been concealed. And knowing what's been hidden, knowing what we've been repressing can help us release it in the weeks following the full moon. Oh, good. I'm glad the horoscopes were on point for you. Okay, let's come back to our tarot pull. I'm going to pull from the Spirit Animal Oracle deck. This is my go-to Mars deck. Very animalistic energy. And remember, Mars energy is very primal. So again, like a primal scream, a primal yell, doing things that feel primal under this full moon conjunct Mars. If it feels a little wild, you're probably doing it right. So this is your opportunity, wherever you're joining me live, to ask any final questions, share any final reflections about this full moon, share any ritual ideas or tips that you'll be doing tonight. Whoa, maybe not. Our card already flew out. Cards have just been flying out for me lately. Okay. And we got the perfect card. Rhino Spirit. Overcome any obstacle. I mean, if that's not a Mars card. I don't know what is. Rhino Spirit. Yeah, this is a great deck. I love working with the animal totems because they're like real little angels all around Earth that have different messages to bring us. So I've never seen a rhino in the wild, but we know rhinos are very tough, very hard-headed. Let's see what the guidebook has to say. This is card number 50. Rhino Spirit, overcome any obstacle. We always have the choice to press ahead, and Rhino Spirit's strength offers you the power to break through stubborn obstacles. This animal spirit knows there is more than one way to open a path to what you seek. When Rhino Spirit appears, you are reminded that you have a marvelous ability to overcome obstacles in multiple ways. By going around them, shattering them with the force of clear, deliberate intentions, or even transforming them into clouds that drift away by refusing them to limit you. Apply your Rhino Spirit with creativity, and no obstacle can stand, for you have magic to make and many ways in which to make it. Your power is awesome right now. Rhino Spirit also wants to remind you that when an obstacle appears to prevent you from getting what you desire today, it means that something much better is coming. Keep that in mind when you consider the nature of the obstacle in front of you now. Great Spirit loves you so much and only wants the best for you. I needed to hear that message today. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that specifically this card talked about there are many methods to overcome obstacles, multiple ways. Remember, the Gemini moon shows us different ways of doing things. Not necessarily like innovating, but many different options. We crave variety under the Gemini moon. So it's why we've been saying so many options of like how to release energy. There are so many methods available to us today. Use that to your advantage. Whatever feels good, use that for release today. Do something that feels a little bit like trivial in the sense of exciting and new and different, you know? Yes, such a perfect card for Mars, the Rhino, right? So perfect. Yes, get this deck. I love that. I love that. I haven't seen a Rhino either. I don't know if many people have, but we can understand the message. I'll be burn journaling and blowing what I choose to release into a stick and giving it to fire ceremony tonight. Fire is a great element to work with tonight, and air, which is perfect. This is a great ritual if anybody else wants to borrow that. Air, of course, we're under an air full moon, a Gemini full moon, and fire because Mars is conjunct the full moon. Using air and fire to release tonight is beautiful, a beautiful way to work with the moon. Blowing into a stick sounds interesting. I love that. Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that. And I hope the energy is, I hope you're doing okay. I hope that this helped you to understand the energy a little bit better and how you can work with it, how you can pull wisdom from it, how you can pull information from it under the full moon in Gemini. And hopefully it's clear tonight where you are and you can see this pretty rare phenomenon of Mars passing behind the moon. I am so grateful for each and every one of you. I'm so grateful you continue to show up here for yourself. I'm so grateful you continue to show up for this community. As I reflect on all the ways I have been expanding this year, you know, this full moon is on my midheaven. So it really does feel like personally a culmination point for me in what I've been creating and building in my career. Really reviewing a lot of things as well, but a lot of times I don't have the full reflection of how to pull from the energy until I speak it to you. So giving myself credit for how much we've all grown this year together in this community. And again, just so grateful for each and every one of you. I hope you have a happy full moon. I hope it's blessing you with positive energy, realizations, and deeper understanding. I will see you back here tomorrow morning. Check in how this full moon went for you. And then we have some exciting stuff happening on the weekend too. So blessings, full moon blessings. I will see you all tomorrow, but whenever I see you next, until then, stay curious. Thank you so much for joining us and aligning with the energy of the universe today. If you enjoyed this morning's episode of Transits Today, you can join our live astrology discussion every weekday morning right here wherever you're watching. And head to thespiritualjournalist.com to read your daily astrology forecast and browse the Spiritual Shop. The most fun way to help keep these forecasts free and support more content like this is to buy yourself a little something on our website. But if you're feeling extra generous, you can also buy me a coffee to fuel future live streams. Just tap the link in the description or head to buymeacoffee.com and search The Spiritual Journalist. And speaking of, you can also tune in to The Spiritual Journalist, our weekly live interview where we ask our guests questions about everything from crystals and manifestation to mental health and the environment. Those conversations stream live right here wherever you're watching now every Tuesday. I'm so grateful you found us here, and I can't wait for our next conversation.